Welcome to Friday Q&A. Thank you guys for tuning in. This week is a little bit of a departure from previous videos. Normally I do this video pretty much in one take and I chop it together, but like a good TV chef, this week I have a few things that I have prepared earlier. So before we get into the questions, as always, ask me anything you would like to know for next week and I'll get back to you guys. Until then, let's get into it. So for boutique high gain, all expenses aside, would I go for something like a Bogner, a Friedman, or a Diesel, or am I sold on the digital modeling stuff? This is a pretty loaded question because I think just about everybody would say if they had an unlimited budget, they would have a giant studio, they'd stick in like a wall full of different cabinets and different high gain heads and just have fun playing with all of them. But having said that, the convenience of something like the Axe FX3, plus the fact that it sounds so darn good, it sounds indistinguishable from the real amps that I have that are modeled in there. In some cases, I actually think it sounds better. That I'm at that point now where not only is it more convenient, but I think it actually sounds better, even if that sounds like heresy. Better's not really the right word. It sounds different. It's a little bit more appropriate a lot of the times, but I would love to own a real Bogner Uberschall. I would love to own a real Friedman BE, but till I can find like a spare 10 grand to buy them here in Australia, I'll probably just stick with the Axe FX. Having said that, not all digital modelers are created equal. Doing the demo of the Mua GE200 this week, which I think is a fine piece of gear, but compared to the quality I'm getting from the Axe FX3, the Axe is really in a different league. So yeah, like I said, would love an Uber, would love a Diesel. Well, I'd love all of these things because it's just great having the real things to reference, but pretty stoked with the Axe FX3 for now. This was a question I got on my demo video of the Marshall JMP1 asking can I plug the JMP1 directly into a cabinet, something like an Orange 212. Because the JMP1 is simply a preamp, you would need a power amp to connect it to before you can drive a cabinet. This is the case for any type of preamplifier. It's a question I get a lot about the Axe FX as well, is like, can I just plug my Axe FX into a cabinet? Or, hey, I bought an AX8 and I just plugged it into my guitar cap and there's no sound, what's the deal? In that case, that's like saying, hey, I bought a CD and I just like put some speakers next to it and it's not making any sound. You need something to amplify it. So for any preamp, you need a power amp. A lot of the time, people like tube power amps for guitar stuff. If you're using a digital modeler, like I said last week in a video that I did, I actually prefer a solid state power amp in that setting and to get the power amp simulation from the modeler, but something like a JMP1 sounds great either with a dedicated tube power amp or into the effects return of your head. This was a video on my comparison between the Axe FX3 rectifier model and the real dual rectifier Rev G, basically saying what's what. I did say in that video that I might reveal the results about that one, but I just found the response so interesting, almost like the data that I collected from that. It was like a 50-50 split where people were like, no, clip one, definitely the real amp, listen to this, and this about it, it can only be the real amp, and just about as many people saying the same thing about the other clip. So I have decided I'm just not going to reveal the results ever for that. I know the answer, and if you guys can't really tell the difference, that kind of speaks volumes about how far amp modeling has come. It was actually just a Line 6 pod. Alright, running a Silver Jubilee into a Marshall 1936V cabinet. I looked up the specs on that cabinet. Apparently it has two 70-watt vintage 30s in there. Assuming you're using the 100-watt Silver Jubilee, that cabinet should be rated at 140 watts, which should be fine. As long as you don't just like leave the amp cranked with everything on 10 for like 12 hours through it, I'm sure you'll be fine. If you just wanted to play it for like 10 minutes. You probably won't blow any speakers, even though that 100-watt rating and whatever the ohmage is on your cab, they kind of interplay in an interesting way, and you might be putting out slightly more than 100 watts or slightly less, so it's right on that borderline. You're probably going to be fine, but to be safe, go with like a 300-watt 4x12 or something. Don't do what I did, where I plugged a 100-watt JCM 800 into a 100-watt cabinet. That's a recipe to blow your speakers. I was very lucky not to blow up the speakers on that. Can you come to Albuquerque, New Mexico and help me with my guitar rig? I would love to. In fact, one of the best gigs I've ever played in my life was in Albuquerque, New Mexico about 5 years ago with Ragdoll on our All I Want tour, and that was awesome because there was like a giant circle pit and then these two girls got into a fight and there was just all this mayhem. It was an absolutely wild gig, and we went to the car wash and the house that Breaking Bad is set at, so that was a pretty cool little tour story. But It might take me a little while to get to Albuquerque. I am in Perth, Western Australia, after all. I like comments like this when people really speak their mind. I'll read this one out to you. This was on a video that I did about the Danelectro Fab Tone, and I do a little series called Great or Garbage, and it's just a bit of fun. I'm not trying to actually pass judgment on anything, because I think any piece of gear and any tone all depends on the context you're using it in. Anyway, this is a comment. Your channel is garbage. Why that stupid title in your video? Really, dude, come on. Are you idiot? Look, that's pretty funny. Are you idiot? So Stuart Braithwaite from Mogwai is a deaf, because he uses this pedal. How many good records did you release? How many better records than Young Team did you release? Fucking douche. Well, like I said earlier, the video is just a bit of fun. I'm not passing judgment on what a good or a bad tone is. But something like Mogwai, where you've got 3 guitar players and they're all using these very rich, low-end, heavy tones, I can see why Stuart Braithwaite would use that pedal, because it's really pokey sounding and fizzy, and that would really help him sort of cut through the mix in that. Having said that, in 95% of musical applications, that pedal is probably not the thing that you want to do. It's not a very versatile pedal, but if you're playing like a post-rock or a stoner band and you need just a gross cutting tone, the Fab Tone might be the thing that you need, and it's cheap too. So in terms of what records I've released, anytime you use that argument, it's totally irrelevant. That's not a valid argument. Hey, you've tried to make a point about a pedal, and what have you done? You suck. Ha 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 ha. So yeah, I haven't released anything as popular as Young Team. Whether that's as good or not is totally irrelevant. Like I said, it's not about good or bad with music. It's Mogwai are a really popular band for a good reason. They make some pretty awesome music, and I really like them as well. I think Young Team, probably my favorite record that they made. I've made some records. You can go and listen to them on Spotify, or you can buy them if you like the channel and to help support me. And I will leave it at that. But yeah, anyway, thanks, man. Thanks for the comment. This was on a video that I did for the Soldano vs Jet City. People still play Van Halen riffs? Why not your own riffs? And this is exactly the sort of comment I get all the time, because I'll play a riff that I wrote and people will be like, ha 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 ha, why didn't you play something that everybody knows? And then you play something that everybody knows and ha 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 ha, unoriginal YouTuber, you don't know anything about music. Why don't you do something with your life and come out with some of your own music? So like I said before, if you want to listen to some of my music, I just told you where to go and get it. And why not play Van Halen riffs? Eddie wrote some of the best riffs ever recorded on guitar. I love playing Van Halen riffs. I'm going to go play some Van Halen riffs now. So like the convicted felon Martha Stewart, I have prepared this question earlier. This one was a lot of fun to answer. This is a special question that I wanted to consider from Slayer666. He asks, how do I get a Slayer tone? I don't have a Marshall, I've only got a metal zone. So this one's pretty interesting. When it comes to metal zones though, I know just the guy. I'm gonna give my buddy Johnny a call. Let's hit him up right now.
Hey man, how you going?
You mod metal zones, right?
Yeah, I've got one. What's up?
So this kid wants a Slayer tone. What are we going to do about it?
Slayer tone?
Yeah, Slayer tone.
Metal zone?
Slayer tone. Slayer tone.
Yeah, give me a couple of days and I'll see what I can come up with.
Yeah, Slayer tone.
Cool man, catch you soon. Hey man.
Johnny!
How you going?
Come have a seat, man. So what have you got for me now?
So, yeah, this Slayer tone with a metal zone made me out to really rethink my teenage years, so I've been listening to Slayer all week.
So what's the mod all about?
So, look, metal zone's actually quite good, and if you don't have the Marshall and the SD1 going through the front, or a KFK MXR 10-band EQ in the loop, metal zone would actually be perfectly fine. What I'd actually suggest though is probably plugging it straight into the power amp, or direct into, with a, when you do your cab sims and
power amp sim,
all that stuff. And yeah, it doesn't really matter about the settings, probably relatively flat, but the key to this, I figured out, was I don't know if you can see.
Let's get a close up. Let's get a close up on this camera for that one. Can they see it?
Yeah.
Little carving.
So yeah, what we want to do is carve Slayer. This will really help guys who, like me, have no tattoos, have neither long hair or bald, and really want the brutal, Rain in Blood or South of Heaven, Divine Intervention, God Hates Us All.
Yep.
I'll that brutal riff. So anything you plug into, will get you there. I've actually got we can actually do this as DIY. So
Not only do you have a knife,
I have a knife.
you got a metal zone in your pocket.
Zone. So Leon, you can have a go.
Brutality. All right, let's do it.
Yes, just give it a prop it up there. All right. So let's give this Slayer mod a go. So your bypass tone. All right, ready?
Yep.
Do you hear that?
Try it again. Do you have that cup plugged in the right way?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all plugged in.
All right.
Ready? Bypass tone. What the hell is going on?
Who's doing that?
Oh man, you carved in Maya.
Oh.
Maya.
Is that a thing?
Oh, dude, this is ruined.
What is my in-ear system? I've dropped a couple of hints recently on some videos talking about how Ragdoll has moved over to using in-ears, so I'll show you really quickly. I'm using these AudioFly, can you see that? It's got a really cool little pouch. AudioFly headphones, and I forget what model these are, but they're these ones, and they're really, really good. They sound great. The only thing I don't like about them is that they get tangled up really easily, so you've got to be careful with that. And then we're using the Sennheiser G4 receivers and transmitters. Can I get that in there? There you go. This is really awesome. I've never really used in-ears before, so I don't have a lot to compare it to, but yeah, super clear, super reliable. Done a bunch of gigs on them, and they've been great. So that with the transmitter, and then we're using a Behringer X18R to mix our ears with the tablet. I'm going to do like a rundown video next week about all of it and how we set it up, and it's been a real game changer for doing live gigs for us. I love it. I love in-ears. I'm a huge convert. So, who is the fourth member of Ragdoll? Kind of like, the Beatles had their fifth member. I actually reckon we've got two extra members. One's Goku over here, so he's the fourth member. And the fifth member is this guy, Troy Nababan, who I wax lyrical about all the time because he makes our records sound $1 million. And I got 5 questions for Troy today, so say hi, Troy.
Hi, Troy.
What's your least favorite thing about working with Ragdoll?
That's a hard question to answer.
Well, all right, an easy one. What's your favorite thing about working with them?
Favorite thing about working with Ragdoll is Leon makes a mean cup of tea.
All right. What's your favorite Nickelback album?
All the Right Reasons, and I'll explain why.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Because a lot of people like Dark Horse. It's a cool album. A lot of people like whatever. I just happen to have that album on CD. My mum owned it, and I was like, I'm gonna listen to this, and I listened to it. It's like super scooped, but I really like it, and it's got a pretty cool sub drop in like one part of the first song, so I dig it. It's a cool.
There you go. Who are your 3 most influential producers on what you like to do?
Brendan O'Brien.
Oh yeah.
Producers. Who's on the list? Probably put David Bendeth because I ripped off a lot of his ideas.
Yep, he's pretty darn good.
Who else do I like, Leon?
You're a bit of a CLA guy, aren't you?
He's a mix engineer. But, I ripped off a lot of his stuff too. But producers...
Well, alright, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Let's move on. Your least favourite thing about working with Ragdoll? Or editing all my sloppy guitars?
No, the hardest thing is, like, these motherfuckers always finish the album and then come up with really good ideas to chuck in there at the last minute. And that doesn't mean anything to anyone else, but, like, we would mix songs... And I'd bounce, it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd bounce a song off ready to go, and then Cam would say, hey, hey Tondi, what about we try this? And then I'm listening to like, oh man, that's a really good idea. So I've got to stop everything. I've got to remix the whole song again. And or 2 years later, I'm listening back to the song and watch the guys play it live, and Ryan's changed the vocal line. I'm like, oh, that works way better. So yeah, they're not prepared at the time. That's their problem.
So you just got to go back and do greatest hits re-recorded.
Great. Greatest hits. Yep.
And what do you reckon is your favorite thing you've ever recorded? If someone watching this wanted to go and listen to something that you've done, what would you tell them to listen to?
I'm pretty proud of Back to Zero, just because we tried a lot of stuff on that album. Like, I've worked with Ragdoll and I've worked with Leon for about, 2012, 2011, 2012 was the first time we did stuff. And everything that we've done together has been me not knowing what I'm doing, experimenting with it on their band, kind of getting some cool ideas and then doing that for 2 or 3 years afterwards. So that's kind of been pretty indicative. From the very first release from, what was the first one called?
Here Today.
From Here Today till Back to Zero. So yeah, it's been a lot of trying stuff out. They're very gracious in letting me just try my ideas, and hopefully we've made some cool music, and I like it and I still listen to it. So that's a pretty cool thing. So I'm not trying to, like, stroke Leon's ego. Yeah. Being that he's sitting in front of it. I like those albums. I think they're pretty cool.
If you could recommend one guitar album to people watching this that they may not have heard of, what should they go and listen to?
Like shreddy guitar albums?
Just anything.
Always listen to King's X. Like, of course. Go listen to Dogman or anything they've ever done. In particular, first 5 albums. Just because they're so, like, groovy and the sound's really cool. So I would check that out. Or, I mean, Winger don't get enough attention. Great band. Go listen to some White Lion if you want to hear Vito Bratta just rip it up. I went and revisited some of his stuff a couple of weeks ago, and that was really hip. So it depends what you like, but I've always been very partial to Red Beach and to Vito and those type of players. Anyone that took what Eddie Van Halen did and then just put their own spin on it, that's kind of what I really dig. So, yeah.
Troy Nababan, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's do this for the lick of the week, kind of in honor of Eddie Van Halen and in honor of Dimebag as well, because it was the anniversary of his passing in the last week. We're going to do some mad legato stuff. This is really good if you want to work on your legato chops. We're going to be on the 12th fret, the 15th fret, and the 19th fret of the top string. And the pattern that we're going to play is going to be pulling off from 19 to 12, and then hammering on from 12 to 15 and 19, and then back to 15 and back to 12. So this. So that's the basic idea, and then we're going to run that across all 6 strings for this. And you only have to pick the first note for this one to sort of be effective. That's sort of the whole point. It helps if your guitar's set up with a really low action like this one. What is this? This is a PV Wolfgang special, so fitting for the Eddie kind of thing, playing on the neck pickup. You can try pick that one if you like. You can also try reach up to the 20th fret. So this would be an E minor arpeggio. I think I'm in, what tuning am I in? Let's see, I'm in E flat, so it sounds like E flat at the moment. But yeah, so this would be E flat minor. If you're in E, it'd be E minor. You can reach up and play the notes from C major if you play the 20th. So that one's really challenging and a big stretch. But it sounds pretty cool, and you could oscillate between the 2 of them, and you could see things like sequencing. Say you play this down 3 strings. Then do the same thing, start on B and go down 3, start on G and go down 3. Now to try that one, reaching up to the 20th, am I up to it? Oh! Oh, dude, and if it feels like your left hand's going to fall off, take a break because you do not want to injure yourself doing this. But yeah, there's a little tribute to Eddie and Dime for the lick of the week. Have some fun with that one. You can do so many variations on this. You know, you can pick it all.
If you start to feel like there's no time to waste, baby, try to let go. There's nothing so strong, it can't break your heart. Easy come,